Alrighty, good morning everyone. It's Monday, June 28th, 2021, and we're going to get started with our pre-market analysis for the S&P 500 futures market. So we're going to jump to our ultra-high time frames here and see what they're telling us. The 3-month and the monthly both look really strong. Again, no signs of exhaustion, just like we did in the report that we put out last night. Everything looks strong. When we get to our weekly, this is where we start to see some exhaustion in this current push. So you can see, I don't know, maybe a few weeks back at the beginning or mid-May, we had our first indications of exhaustion and had that pretty big sell-off there down into the low 4,000s there. And then we recovered, actually got a decent bullish indication on the week that closed on May 21st. And from there had a pretty strong push until we got into the exhaustion at the end of the week that ended on June 11th and the week that ended on June 18th. And had another attempt to go lower, but then the bulls jumped right back in. And then the candle that closed for last week, this candle right here, is actually a pretty bullish candle. It's considered a bullish engulfing candle, and things look very strong. But what I notice is that we still have somewhat of a bearish indication when we look at the RVI here. So this candle closed, it closed higher than the previous candle, but it did push lower on RVI. So there was a little bit of an indication of exhaustion, and that's why I said last night that 42.76.75, we're really going to have to break above that, and then obviously hold above that in order to have this bullish case really follow through coming into this week. And we did go ahead and push just a little bit higher last night in the Globex session, but there was not enough strength to really get anything going. And then we did pull back into about 68.50 in the overnight here. So we're going to have to watch this. Like I said, a very bullish bar here. And so we could expect some type of continuation higher, but we do have a little bit of an indication of some exhaustion here. Now, this current candle that will take all week to develop here has pushed a little bit higher, and the RVI, at least for now, is starting to push higher. So that's a good sign. If we can stay above 76.75 and our RVI can actually slope upward here and close like that going in through this week, then that will negate these bearish indications that we had off of the previous few candles. Let's go down to our daily. And this is something I want to bring up really quickly, that on the 24th, we did have a bearish indication off that previous high, but then as the next day formed, so as Friday formed here, we got a negation. So this was known as a false signal. There was no follow through. We did not get a peak there. So we're going to go ahead and remove that since there was no follow through there. And it looks like we are, let me just copy that line back over. We are looking very, very strong here. So you can see a continued push higher, higher highs pretty much with each candle ever since that sell-off after that bearish indication back in mid-June. And so that's exactly what we're seeing here on RVI as well. So you can see here on the previous peak that we can actually compare. We have a push to a higher high up here and a push to a higher high up here as well. So everything looks pretty strong right now. No indications of exhaustion. And so if I could wrap up these higher time frames, the ultra high time frames, the two upper ultra high time frames have no indications of exhaustion. The weekly has some indications of exhaustion, but the daily still looks strong. So we just have that one time frame giving us bearish indications, with the time frames on the outer sides of that still looking pretty bullish with no signs of exhaustion. Let's jump down to our 4-hour here, and the 4-hour had a really nice bullish indication from 31.75 back on the looks like the night of June 23rd, and we've been pushing ever since then. And when we started our pre-market on Friday, we had the indications here of a potential bearish signal, but there was no follow through. So again, somewhat of a bearish indication there off of that 7 a.m. candle from June 25th. But as you can see on RVI, it continued going here. So we actually have to get rid of this signal here. And so things continued to push. No bearishness off of the current all-time high, which is up at 42.7850. That's our overnight high. And maybe somewhat of an argument here, since we have continued to push higher, if only by a few ticks on each of these candles. We have pushed a little bit lower here on RVI. So this 4 hour has a little bit of an indication of some bearishness down here. But it looks like we have a pretty nice strong bullish engulfing candle right now. And this looks like it is about to break. Let me just check this high here. So we actually just broke the high by 1 tick. So we're going to have to watch this here. Maybe some signs of bearishness on the 4 hour. We get to our 60-minute here, and we had a pretty clear bullish indication here around 69.25. The market did push just a few ticks below that to 68.50, but pretty decent bullish indication there. And ever since we pulled back into these lows here in the overnight, we have pushed and are now looking pretty strong right now. No indications of exhaustion up here on the 60-minute. And so things are looking pretty strong, except for 1 or 2 time frames indicating some potential bearishness. But that could be very quickly negated here if they continue to push through that 78.50 area. So I have the 69.25 marked on here as the last most relevant bullish indication on the 60-minute. And then you're going to see, as we dial down to the shorter time frames, that we do have some pretty decent bullish indications off 68.50, which was just a few ticks below that indication here on the 60-minute. So let's jump down and take a look at the 30-minute here. So there's that 68.50 low here in the overnight. That's our overnight low right now. Pretty nice bullish indication, and we're pushing here with no indications of exhaustion on our 30-minute. And then our 10-minute, same indication off 68.50 there. Pushing, no indications of exhaustion. We did have an exhaustion pattern here about 5:40 this morning. And it only pulled back for about 1 or 2 points, and now it's continuing to push here. So everything looks pretty strong. There aren't enough bearish indications to indicate a strong pullback right now. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have some type of strong pullback, but looking at everything and considering all the different time frames, most time frames are giving us bullish indications here coming into the open. Remember that last night's analysis basically said that we had some pretty clear bullish signals on most time frames, and we were talking about 64.75. So this 50% of the previous day, which is here at 65, right off that low at 64.75, 1 tick below it, we basically had bullish indications on, I don't even remember, 60-minute, 30-minute, 10-minute, 3-minute. Everything had bullishness down here. Now we have not come back to test that, and then in the overnight, we made a higher low and a bullish indication on the 10-minute, the 30-minute, and arguably even the 60-minute there, right around 68.50. And like I said, no indications of bearishness in the current push. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Looks somewhat bullish here for the morning. Of course, we are going to have to push and hold above these highs over here around 76.75 to about 79. If we can push and hold above that, that's going to give us a much stronger conviction for our bullish case this morning. If they end up starting to sell off here and we break through 68.50 and through 65, things will definitely start to low, or 64.75, which is that ultimate low. things are going to start to look a little bit more bearish here. And remember, we also have a potential case where we are continuing to push to these all-time highs, and so things could be a little bit slow and choppy in here, especially because we are in the throes of the summer doldrums here. So lower volume, at least that's how it's been for the last few days, and so it could be a little bit choppy in here.